When I was trying and starting off the carnivore diet, going strict, my intention was never to stay strict on a carnivore diet, but I considered it because of how much I actually love the diet. So I intentionally added fruit timely because that was the plan from the jump. What's going on YouTube, TR Fit fam? Welcome back to the channel. If you've never been here, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff now. This didn't hit your algorithm for no reason. Tune in, stay in. With that, let's get right to it. I'm sure you've seen the caption, should I, would I, could I? It's something my mom used to say when I didn't have a decisive answer to whatever reason I didn't do something, shoulda, coulda, woulda. I'm sure y'all heard it too before. With that said, we're talking about the carnivore diet. Would I ever consider doing it long-term strict? When I say carnivore, I mean strict carnivore, no fruit, mainly meat, cheese, and eggs primarily. And obviously the liver and all that stuff too. Would I ever do that long term without even considering adding anything else? Before I talk about it, in my opinion, in my perspective, I want to play a video real quick.
I think the biggest thing for me that I've changed my mind on since I wrote the book in 2019 was carbohydrates, and then connecting with that, the ketosis and ketogenic diet. So when I wrote the Carnivore Code, and this is humbling, this is what we all do, is we write books, and then you put your thoughts into cement, you freeze your thoughts in kryptonite, and then you change your thoughts and you think, oh, the book, it's just not a living document. But when I wrote the book, I was of the opinion that carbohydrates were not great for humans and was sort of looking at the literature differently. And over time, I learned personally in my own life, doing a carnivore diet of meat, organs, and fat and salt for a year and a half, that including carbohydrates in my diet improved my health from there. So my whole story is that I was eating kind of a paleo diet, had really bad eczema, which I'd had my whole life. Getting rid of vegetables and all plant food significantly improved the eczema, so much so that in the last 4.5, 5 years since I've been on this more specific path, I haven't had any flares of the eczema that are significant at all. That was a big deal because I had massive eczema on my elbows, my wrists, my hips, so much so that I really couldn't even wear pants easily. It would get on my shirts. I couldn't do jujitsu because I had eczema on my knees and it was getting infected. So getting rid of vegetables really helped with my eczema. But then I learned after a year and a half that I was getting such bad muscle cramps, heart palpitations, sleep disturbances. My testosterone was kind of going down. Right now it's around 700 or 800. I've included carbohydrates in my diet for the last 2.5 years. But at that point it was going 450, 500, significantly lower, and my sex hormone binding globulin was creeping up. So I had electrolyte issues. And what I realized was that I'd been thinking about insulin wrong. I'd been thinking that I needed to keep my insulin low all of the time. And to be fair, on a carnivore diet, my fasting insulin was low, 3.5, 3.0. And I thought incorrectly that if I ate carbohydrates, my insulin would spike and that would be a bad thing, right? What I realized, and I wasn't taught this in medical school, was that insulin spikes after you eat carbohydrates are actually healthy for the human body for a variety of reasons. So insulin is probably something else I've changed my mind on, carbohydrates and insulin. What I realize now is that your body needs an insulin signal after a meal when you eat carbohydrates to signal to the kidneys to resorb and hold on to minerals, sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium. So the massive, profound electrolyte problems that people get on long-term ketogenic diets are almost certainly due to a lack of insulin signaling at the level of the kidney. There are various levels of kidney physiology upon which insulin is going to act, but people in the ketogenic space, I think, are well-intentioned and they're trying to hold on to minerals by including massive amounts of salt in their diet, but it just doesn't work because you need an insulin signal at the level of the kidney to hold on to those things. So the first thing I did when I sort of transitioned off a ketogenic zero-carb, quote-unquote, carnivore diet was include honey in my diet. And the first couple of days, I felt a little weird because I was physiologically insulin resistant. And then your body kind of adjusts to this, my blood sugar spikes normalize. And if I eat honey today or a few years ago after I had adjusted to having carbohydrates back in my diet, my blood sugar might go 130, 140, 150 milligrams per deciliter, but I don't worry about that because if you look at the actual shape of that curve, it comes back down to a baseline very quickly, within the hour for sure. So this is normal human physiology and we should not fear glucose spikes in a metabolically healthy individual. It's going to go up, it's going to come back down, that's normal, and that insulin signaling is healthy for humans at so many levels. It's healthy for our hormones, it's healthy for our brains, it's healthy for the production of glutathione and the resorption of minerals. So that idea of insulin being all bad all the time and including carbohydrates in my diet, that was a huge, huge thing. And now we know, there's tons of research that I just didn't see at that point that I was sort of blind to about carbohydrates for athletes, carbohydrates post-exercise. We just worked out. I have holes in my shorts now from the weight belt and this, this weight that I was using has ripped a hole in the front of my shorts here. And carbohydrates post-exercise are so clearly shown to improve performance. Carbohydrates overall are shown to improve all sorts of metrics in humans, testosterone, recovery, sleep, all kinds of things. So those are two big ones for me from the outset.
Now, on the cramping side, I've got a question. As far as, because I've experienced that when I'm low carb, right? I'm very, very prone to cramping, which as someone that does a lot of endurance stuff, it's problematic. Like if I'm backcountry or anything like that, I was just doing a long trek and ran into a huge cramping issue, even though I'm not super low carb anymore. I guess I'd still lowish carb. And I would argue that it actually takes time to actually like recover from some of that insulin issue that you have with the kidneys. But the question that I've always had, and maybe you know the answer, since protein is insulinogenic, can you get some resorption of the minerals through the insulin spike with protein, or does the glucagon cancel that out in that case?
I mean, you get some, it's just nowhere near. If you look at the amount of insulin and the level of insulin you get with carbohydrates, it's much higher than it is with just protein. I mean, you get some with protein, it's just not the same as a carbohydrate spike. And so people in communities that are fearful of carbohydrates will say, look at how much insulin you're getting. And that's good. You need that. And so people understand this also, like when you don't eat carbohydrates, you become insulin resistant. This is not the pathological insulin resistance of diabetes, which is different physiology that I can describe. This is the insulin resistance of physiology, basically historically, evolutionarily, this is starvation insulin resistance, meaning that you are physiologically insulin resistant. Your body is saying, hey, spare the glucose, any glucose you're getting, spare that for the brain, the adrenals, and the gonads, and maybe the red blood cells. Don't put it in the muscles. That's physiologic insulin resistance, and that's what you see in people who are low carb or zero carb or keto, and that's why the first time someone like that eats carbohydrates, they may feel very strange, or the blood sugar may go up. This is why a woman who is low carb will fail a glucola test in her pregnancy, because that is physiologic insulin resistance. And I actually have come to believe that's not a good thing. I don't think we want to be physiologically insulin resistant. It is a historically, evolutionarily adaptive thing for extreme situations, but I think that humans do better. And I've come to see carbohydrates as a signal of abundance. I mean, if you go to spend time with the Hadza or the Maasai or the Samburu or the Khoisan, I mean, these tribes invariably seek carbohydrates and they celebrate it. They don't think, oh, I've had 100 carbs today already, I'm not gonna eat this. When I was with the Hadza, we found a beehive and they just went off on this thing. I mean, I got a big chunk of beehive and ate it with the larva in there and the honey, and it's amazing. And the three Hadza guys that I was with were probably ate 60, 70% of the honey in this hive and then shared a little bit with their comrades when they came back. Say, hey, we found a hive, here's a small amount for you guys. But they'd eaten a ton of this stuff. So historically, I think humans had massive exposure to carbohydrates whenever they could get it, as much as they could get it.
Yeah.
They didn't fear it at all.
I would agree. I mean, I definitely feel like, to say that carbohydrates aren't evolutionarily correct is invalid. I mean, I think there's always access to them at some point, one way or another. So
humans are seeking them. If we don't have them, we're seeking them. If we can't find them in berries, I didn't mean to cut you off, but if we can't find them in berries, if we can't find them in honey, we're going to find them in roots. Yeah. It's a piece. Just like, I mean, it's interesting. It's just so intuitive and simple. We're looking for animal protein. We're looking for nutrients and organs. That's clear. We're always eating a whole animal. But the next thing, I think, in tandem with that, we're also seeking carbohydrates as wild humans. We've forgotten what wild humans look like because we all, except for maybe a couple thousand people on the planet today, live as semi-domesticated humans.
Before I get into that, I do want to say right off the back that I actually do like and enjoy the carnivore diet. I actually love the diet. I think it's very good for anyone, really, when it's all said and done. Anyone that's trying to do something when it comes down to reaching fitness goals in general, especially losing weight. But I don't consider it a weight loss diet. Any diet that's considered a weight loss diet are typically not good diets for you health-wise, nor are they something that you can sustain. So I kind of stay away from those. But this diet in general, the carnivore diet, is a diet that you can, I believe, can sustain for a long time, depending on your lifestyle, which I'm going to get into that. But Paul Saladino, I'm sure if you've seen this video, I'm sure you've seen a lot of his videos because he's kind of been in the upfront for the meat and fruit and animal-based diet. Kind of the face of it for the most part, I guess you can say. And for good reason, because he actually does the research and actually, at least from what we see, stay consistent. Tells us to try this, stay away from this, and so on and so forth. With that said, I've had a lot of the experiences that he had with going strict carnivore. And sometimes when you get to the point where you love something so much, you completely ignore any possible negative or anything associated that could harm you in the long term or in the long run, and you just ignore it like it just is what it is because you fell in love with something so heavily. Fortunately for me, my intention was never to stay strict on a carnivore diet, but I considered it because of how much I actually love the diet. So I intentionally added fruit timely because that was the plan from the jump. I've said this before, I'm not doing this diet, or I didn't start this diet because of health issues like most people do. I feel like I fixed some health issues that I was unaware of, but at the same time, that wasn't my goal. It was more so to stay looking a certain way, and I work in this field. So if I'm going to recommend any diets to anyone, I like to have a hands-on experience with them before I recommend anything. That's just how I've always been. I'll never be a fan of saying, yeah, go give it a try. No. I could put someone's health in danger, and I'm not a fan of that, and I just simply won't do it. But moving along, if I was planning to be strict carnivore, here are some of the things that I've experienced that would probably steer me in the other direction. And I'm starting off with cramping. A lot of people in this field always recommend certain electrolytes. They recommend everything that kind of goes against the diet in a sense. I could be wrong with that, but for the most part, we're supposed to eliminate anything that we can't go, okay, I read this label, this is the ingredient, or it should be X, Y, and Z. That simple, not a whole bunch of added things within the ingredients of the labels. And most electrolytes are simply that. So when I was doing the carnivore diet, I personally and intentionally cut out pre-workout, which I love pre-workout. I cut out BCAAs. I cut out just about anything that I would do as a addition to my normal routine or what I've even done in the past, because I wanted to give this diet an honest review. And any supplements can obviously, I think this common sense, can throw off an honest opinion off of a diet, because I might be getting my energy source from pre-workout rather than my energy source from the carnivore diet. While doing the carnivore diet, I experienced cramping to it's a ridiculous level, and I blamed it on my activity. I blamed it on my water intake, which, keep in mind, my water intake is pretty solid. I got a thing of water I'm finishing up right here, and like literally as we speak. But with that said, I had to increase my water level on just outstanding, which I was always trying to get close to a gallon anyway a day. If I missed a day and didn't touch close to a gallon of water, I was waking up in the middle of the night with cramps. The solution was drinking saltwater shots, but no one enjoys that. Like, that's not a drink or a beverage. That's something you want to go, hey, let's go get some saltwater shots, you know? Which leads me to my next point. When I used to cramp, one thing I used to always do that will work to get rid of cramps, I'm a former athlete. I used to play football, college football. I would eat a banana. I don't see anything wrong with a lot of the fruits that we eat today, outside of things being out of season and the common sense things. Like, I'm not going to get into that. That's another video all on its own. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with the fruits that we eat and some of the vegetables. When it comes down to nutritional value, you can get majority of the things from fruit that you would get from vegetables. So cutting out the vegetables, I understand. But cutting out fruit in general just didn't make sense to me. So it was never a part of my plan. And with dealing with cramping, as consistent as I was, knowing that a simple banana could fix that, I have no reason not to do it. Like, it just didn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense to me still. It is what it is. My last point kind of touches on what Paul Saladino was talking about with testosterone levels. I didn't get my blood work done because I didn't know how, honestly, I didn't know how this was going to go. So I'm kind of mad about that. Honestly, I'm still kicking myself for it. My wife was mad about it, that I didn't get my blood work done doing it. She was more scared about the health things. I'm just more upset because I did it and didn't have the blood work to back it up, like most people do when they do diets like this. But once again, I try diets all the time, and I don't even consider doing that. I just go off of a personal feeling and how I feel. Do I feel better? Does it give me energy? Is it sustainable? I do it, or I move on. Like, you know what I mean? So, but not to get into graphic details, I don't have any personal issues down yonder, but I did feel like my level was kind of decreasing. So from there, I started looking into the hormonal issues that you have during the carnivore diet, and I seen a lot of people's stories were kind of similar. So with all that said, if I personally was someone who was planning on doing a strict carnivore diet, this will be something that will be kind of probably set me back to the point that it will be is this diet for me? Is this healthy to do? And have all those red flags that personally, things like that, steer people in a direction where they just run away from the diet in general completely, which is a bad thing. I don't think the diet should be rejected or neglected just because of those issues, as big or small as they may be, because I do think they are preventable. And I do think, because of my personal lifestyle, is mainly the reason why those things were happening, because I don't hear it happening to everyone. It was kind of a case-by-case issue for people. So let's get into the shoulda, coulda, woulda. Should I, for someone who's watching this, should you do the carnivore diet long term? If you have the health issues that most people that do the carnivore diet, I would say definitely give it a strong consideration and work kind of backwards. Stay strong, stay strict from the beginning, and then add things little by little, one by one, if you do plan on adding. But after that, if it's not working for you and it's setting you back, then go back to strict. I don't think it'd be that big of an issue drinking the salt water or adding vitamins to your diet. If you're someone like me that's planning on starting a diet, I always say the same thing to everyone that even with the meat and fruit diet, I always say start off strict carnivore, at least try to go through a month of strict carnivore and then base everything off of that. Same exact thing. Same thing I'll recommend to somebody who is doing it for the health issues will be the exact same thing I say when it comes down to just doing it for the, to reap all the benefits that come with the carnivore diet. Introduce it one by one and then move forward from there. For me to say no one should do the carnivore diet long term, I wouldn't be any better than people who've never done the carnivore diet telling people not to try it, because there are people, a lot of people who do this diet long term that see results, do perfectly fine. Not only that, they're thriving, they're feeling better than they've ever felt and looking better than they've ever looked. So I'd be a hypocrite like no other to say, no, you shouldn't do it long term. The would I kind of touched on it, but yes, I would do it if I have a short-term goal. I personally don't see myself doing it extremely long-term. Once again, I don't see anything wrong with fruit. I actually like fruit. Have seen no issues with it at all. So if that's you, I think it's easy to feel peer pressure in this segue or segment or whatever you want to call it. It's just like I said, it's like a kind of like a cult kind of. When it comes down to diets and things of this nature, when it comes down to your health, you should be kind of making your own rules, but following a guideline, make it your way. And that's what I do. Could I do it long term? Honestly, I don't think I could with the issues that I brought up. I think I would always have to go back and forth. Even if I was trying to do it super strict, I think I would always have to jump back and forth. Maybe carnivore one week, meat and fruit next week, back and forth like that, or 1 month on, 1 month off with doing either meat and fruit or strict carnivore. And I think the reason is I am very, very, very active. I work on my feet, constantly moving, constantly busy, constantly walking around. I think you get it. Me and my brother are gym owners, and we constantly have to go back and forth through gyms. I work out. My workouts are very intense. We move very fast. We push each other. And I think that was the cause of a lot of the issues that I had with the carnivore diet. Well, once again, they were completely solved as soon as I started eating fruit. So it is what it is. And I'm sure a lot of you guys heard of Dr. Berry. Like this goes back to kind of what I was talking about. I'll be a fool and contradict myself completely, saying that it doesn't work long term, because people like Dr. Berry has tried it. But once again, this is what makes me believe that it's a activity or active. Your level of activity plays a role in how your body will respond to the carnivore diet. For example, Paul Saladino seems very, very active, and he dealt with a lot of the same issues that I dealt with. Dr. Berry doesn't have a lot of these issues, and I've heard him talk about working out several times, and he kind of like looks at working out as, yeah, if you want to do it, it's fun. Go play sports, and he looks at it as like just a fun thing to do. When reality, obviously, we look at it a little bit differently. We probably will butt heads on that topic. But with that said, his lifestyle isn't overly active when it comes down to exercise. At least that's what I see. That's what it seems like. But by doing the carnivore diet, it helps him stay in shape. His levels are all to par, to my knowledge, and he doesn't have the issues that I personally have in this. And I think it's more so because of activity level, which is setting me back from going in full force, strict carnivore. Once again, like I said, it's not that big a deal. It is what it is. I'm adding fruit. With that said, I hope this video was helpful. Do me a favor. Do the YouTube stuff. Like, share, subscribe. Main thing, leave comments. Talk about your story. Talk about your journey. If this was helpful, please let me know. If not, do the same thing. Just leave a comment. Either way, I'm good with it. Lastly, if you're okay with just the diet side, cool, tune in. But if you're one that actually wants to exercise and work out, stay in shape, look a little better, be a little stronger, feel a little better, I can help you out. We have an online program as well. It will work wonders for you. How do I know that? Because it worked wonders for others. Outside of that, see y'all next time.